Shirley Lee with Entertainment Weekly, and I'm here with the cast and producer of The Man in the High Castle, and we are all in here in a non-high castle. But welcome, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well. I want to start off talking about Season 2. You guys just had your panel, and we saw some wild clips. Juliana has been on the run, and encounters John. So tell me about... Always running.
Encounters John.
Yeah, encounters. No, gets interrogated by, basically. So Juliana, tell me about... not Juliana. Alexa, tell me about...
Juliana.
She's not convincing.
Look, at this stage of the day, we'll answer to anything.
Yeah.
So.
There you go. Okay, I'll answer to Juliana at this point.
Okay, cool.
Whatever you want. Just give me some coffee.
Alexa, tell me about Juliana's psyche at this point. Is she just demoralized, or is she trying to fight back?
I think black and white is never really applicable. I think, as far as especially, I think in any realm of character description, it's kind of difficult. But you know, as it would be to describe you or me or anyone else. But I think she's. I can't really tell you. I can't tell you. But she's not a damsel in distress. I think that is something that people often kind of misconstrue. She does have a plan. She's somebody who is very, very, very focused. So though she's in great danger and could die at any second, she does have a mission, and she is somebody who's incredibly tenacious and driven and focused and has an extraordinary will to live. And so that's where we find her.
Right. It seems like she has to escape both sides, so there's not really a neutral zone for her to operate in at this point.
Correct.
For you, how do you wrap your mind around that, around a character, a heroine who has to be, attacked from both sides, really?
I think it's like anything. I think dynamics are as they are. When you get into a scenario like this, for example, the dynamic is such. You're going to interview me. I'm going to answer the questions. That just is what it is. I think when you dive into a character like that, the dynamics are such, and there is no questioning it. It's a difficult thing to explain. I don't think there's really a process to describe. But Juliana is in that space, and therefore, that's where we find me. For 7 months of my life.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
All of that.
moving along the line here, Brennan, it's really great to see you back.
Thank you.
Because you are one of the few characters who brings some levity into the situation by not being the best guy in the world.
Right.
But tell me about what's happening with him this season that you can tell me about. Is he still, trying to sell off fake?
Well, no, he gets placed pretty quickly into precarious situations. So children starts dealing with some kind of life or death threats right away, and gets dragged into situations by Frank and Ed that reveal more about who he is, and you see some different sides of him, because Chilton is not the best guy, but he's also not the worst guy. And I think it's true of the show, is that all of these characters are so complex and rich. There's no such thing, as as we've all spoken about, that there's no bad guy, there's no good guy. And Chilton, particularly from the novella by Philip K. Dick, is so contradictory, and it's a real joy as an actor to be asked to play that, particularly in a series. It happens very rarely, where it's happening more and more as series become more and more complex and sophisticated narratively. But it's a really rewarding role to play. So you get to find him in a lot of new situations that hopefully show some of those complexities.
Right. Well, speaking of complexities, Rufus, John has...
Oh, I like that intro. That's good. Thank you.
Nice. Did all right here. Did all right here.
Can I help you?
Yes.
Complexities.
Could you say deep, dark, and mysterious, and maybe I'll answer.
That too. Well, speaking of deep, dark, and mysterious.
Yes.
So, Rufus, John in Season 1, he has been squarely in the rank, right? He is high-ranking, and now he's dealing with his son's health situation. Is he going to be on shakier ground in Season 2? What is he thinking?
Absolutely. Well, it's funny. He'll be on shakier ground and stronger ground, because these two stories running concurrently that set up pretty much by the end of the first season, that he is on the ascendancy in his path to the very... I mean, he's already about as high as he can get within the American Reich, but he's suddenly pleased the boss of all bosses, whilst at the same time getting this terrible piece of potential news about his son. Those two stories develop. He gets given extra responsibility personally from Hitler to search out the man in the high castle, whilst at the same time his son's situation, after his initial attempts to kind of dream it away, come back and get larger and larger and larger. And so as he gets higher and higher potentially in the Reich, the very reason that he chose the Reich was to protect his family. And that same machine is about to devour his children or his child. So those two stories are in total conflict, but they grow at the same rate through the course of the second season. So yeah, it gets more complex.
It's interesting to see that all of your characters are kind of experiencing this glitch in the machine. Really, you're caught between two different worlds that you can't really get out of, but you have to deal with. So David, that leads me to you. Working on the second season of this, what was the biggest challenge about thinking through what could possibly happen next after season 1?
I wouldn't say it was a challenge as much as there was so many rich opportunities. I mean, the world has become one that is ever more sort of treacherous globally, but for our characters individually, they are all in different ways, living on a precipice where every decision has potentially significant ramifications. So it's a time of incredible stakes for them personally and interpersonally, but at the same time, it is a world whose future from day to day is unpredictable, and I think that's something ironically we can relate to in our own way today, and to look at an alternative history and try and imagine what choices would we make if we were in their situation.
And how does season 2 continue to be relevant to today's history, this alternate history, to our history? I've stumped you.
It holds a mirror up to our society. It holds a reverse mirror up to us. The show, in its alternate reality, shows us, it attempts to show us our own world and the problems that lie within it and our society, but in a reverse way, which builds up an echo chamber and makes it more significant and more resonant, and hopefully speaks on a deep level to people about the world that we are actually in.
Yeah, so that thing that, Oscar Wilde, well, a lot of things get attributed to
here we
him
go.
that he didn't
You're
say.
gonna quote
I
Oscar
believe.
Wilde. Yeah. Okay.
No, Oscar Wilde said,
Here comes the Oscar Wilde quote.
and I quote, a mask tells you more than a face, or give a man a mask and he will tell you the truth. There is somehow, because exactly what Brennan was saying, that this world, because it is at a remove, somehow the way it intersects with our own world and the one we know is very compelling. It's where the show really lives, actually. It's kind of something that exists between those two things in our imagination, where those two things intersect. And it's extraordinary, really, the differences and the similarities. They keep on popping up as you watch it. And that's part of the reason it's so fascinating as an audience member. You find yourself getting drawn in. I think that's the reason why.
Yeah. Well, very last thing. In the trailer that was unveiled today, we saw that Marilyn Monroe, it was also in the teaser, Marilyn Monroe is in the teaser in the trailer. David, and I guess the rest of the cast, are there any other historical figures, real-life figures that we'll be seeing?
Well, she only appears in the trailer, in the teaser. She doesn't actually appear in the show, but you.
Doesn't exist.
She's a
in
stormtrooper.
our
Yeah.
world.
Yeah. She just never went blonde.
That would be exciting.
Yeah.
But there will continue to be sort of literal reference points, both within sort of pop culture and obviously within certain historical events that will be sort of touchstone references over the course of the series. I mean, we have not advanced in terms of our fictional reality time very far. I mean, we've only, I think, gone about 21 days or so in season 1. So there's quite an intensification of things transpiring and a lot to still orient
It
to.
also looks like the actors are aging really quickly.
Yeah.
That's what happens in alternate
It's a
history.
stressful
They're
time.
under a lot of stress.
You spend a year to shoot something that only takes place in 2 weeks.
It's a strain on all of us.
It is.
Yeah.
Oh, well, on that note, thank you guys for stopping by. Stick with EW.com for more New York Comic Con coverage.